You ready? Now, although cholesterol is synthesized in most tissues of the human body where it serves as a component of cell membranes, we know that already. No? Cell membrane, it is produced mainly in the liver and intestine. Okay? So, all tissues produces cholesterol because it needs the cholesterol to uh, incorporate it in its cell membrane formation. Okay? But as we said, most of the cholesterol are formed in the liver and the intestine. So it's the main organs, liver and intestine. In the liver, cholesterol may be also converted to bile salts or bile acids. Okay? And certain endocrine tissues like the testes, the ovary, the adrenal glands, it is converted to steroid hormones. A precursor of cholesterol uh, can be converted in a series of tissues to active form of vitamin D. So you have there the vitamin D, you expose yourself to the sun, and uh, the 7-dehydrocholesterol is activated and into cholecalciferol, and then it is brought to the liver for hydroxylation at carbon 25, and then we have 25 hydroxycholecalciferol. Then it is sent to the kidneys for hydroxylation at carbon 1. And so you have now the active uh, vitamin D known as 1,25-dihydroxycholecalciferol. Now why I am talking about this vitamin D, because uh, reports from journals and from scientific articles from UK, from the United States, from Australia, they found out that those who have COVID and are in a precarious situation, meaning nearing death, they found out that this group of patients that are gravely ill with COVID has a very low concentration of vitamin D. The active form of vitamin D is known vitamin D3 or 125 dihydroxycholecalciferol, vitamin D3. So this is what they found out, that there is very low concentration of this acutely ill patient with COVID, vitamin D deficiency. Now, vitamin D is very easily formed in our body if we expose ourselves to the sun. Okay? Now, in Africa, because of their skin, Melanin, there's so much melanin, it acts as a powerful sunscreen so that the UV rays, especially the UVB, because it's the one that activates the 7-dehydrocholesterol in the skin, cannot penetrate because of melanin, so much of melanin. So the dark skin individual have a hard time getting vitamin D from the sun. So this is how it is. Now, they found out that this is by association. It does not mean that this is the cause. By association. They found this out also in people with influenza, who gets easily influenza when they are not exposed to the sun. Okay? This influenza becomes a seasonal disease, usually in uh, countries where they have winter, because this is during this time that uh, influenza will rise. And this has also got to do with low vitamin D. No? Low vitamin D. Because during that time, winter, there is a longer night time than the daytime. And the sun is slanted. It is not like us in the equator that the sun is perpendicular to us. Okay? So that's UVB, because there are two UV, ultraviolet, A and B. It's the B. Now, there's another thing with UVB. It cannot penetrate the glass. Even the glass is clear. It cannot penetrate. The UVA can penetrate the glass, clear glass. But we do not have houses of glass, no? So our house is not made of glass. Okay. So during the time oh, before 1928, where we do not have what we call antibiotics, because penicillin was discovered in 1928. Before that, all respiratory diseases, no? The patients with respiratory diseases are put under the sun. Now, their hospitals before, they are not called hospitals, they are called sanitariums. The sanitariums, they roll out their patients under the sun. That is to get more vitamin D. Now, vitamin D, as you have learned in your nutrition, it is not only for calcium and phosphate metabolism. Vitamin D is a hormone also. It affects your synthesis of certain proteins, which activates the immune system. So there, being under the sun. That's why you might be wondering why those laborers under the sun, they rarely get sick, because their immune system is very strong. It's the vitamin D that activates the certain genes in the DNA, and which those proteins now activates or boost the immune system. So the muscles, yeah. There is also another thing, putting the patient in heat. That's why whenever you have something, when you are sick, there is always fever. There is fever. Now, why is fever there? Oh. Now, they found out that increasing the body core temperature releases interferon. And interferon is a very, very strong immune body that it can kill uh, viruses, can kill bacteria, and so on. No? Now, in Finland, where the sun is not uh, as strong as our sun here, because that part of the world is they're, they're on the top, so the sun rays is slanted, and they could not get so much of uh, vitamin D. So what do they do to increase their immune system was to increase their body temperature. How did they do that? They do it with a very hot bath or in the steam bath. We call it sauna. Okay? So they have this what you call uh, polar bear polar bear challenge. From the sauna, you get out of the sauna and go into the snow. Dive into the snow and come back and then put woolen blanket around yourself to preserve the inner temperature. And that's how they get or destroy their viruses. Doing that, increasing the temperature, the body temperature, interferon is released. That is how our grandmother used to do to us. Still remember that? They let you sweat it out. They put blankets on you. And then when you sweat out, you feel much better when you are sick, di ba? It's the interferon that being released. Now, okay, we have digressed so much. Well, anyway, vitamin D is included here in cholesterol. Now, let's talk about it. All right, cholesterol is stored in the tissues as cholesterol esters. You know that. Your uh, your LDL, your HDL, carries the cholesterol. Your HDL brings back the cholesterol to the liver to be acted upon by the liver enzymes, while your LDL scatters the cholesterol to tissues. Diba? So cholesterol is stored in tissues as cholesterol esters, transported in this form, if you remember, in our blood lipoproteins, LDL, HDL, uh, which also carry free cholesterol, not only cholesterol esters. All right? Now, just like fatty acids, cholesterol is synthesized from acetyl-CoA, derived from acetyl-CoA. Okay, so now let's look at our synthesis of our cholesterol. Muted ko. Mute mo lagi. All right. Let's look at first biomedical importance. So we have taken this up, your LDL. Plasma LDL is the vehicle that supplies cholesterol and cholesterol ester to many tissues. So that is the work of your LDL to scatter your cholesterol. And then your HDL removes this free cholesterol from tissues by your HDL and transport it back to the liver. And we call it reverse transport of cholesterol, where it is eliminated from the body either unchanged or after conversion to bile acids in the process known as reverse cholesterol transport. Cholesterol is the major constituent of gallstones, which is found in your gallbladder. Now, when your gallbladder contains a lot of gallstones, your surgeon is going to remove your gallbladder. Diba? Right. However, this is not it's the chief role in pathological processes. Cholesterol is a factor in development of atherosclerosis of vital organs. No? Vital organs, the heart, you have your myocardial blood vessels there. So that can cause your heart attack. Or arteries in your brain, bringing about cerebrovascular accidents. They call it accident. Or they call it stroke. Okay. So coronary and peripheral vascular disease. So here we are. Cholesterol is biosynthesized from acetyl-CoA. Little more than half of the cholesterol of the body rises by synthesis, about 700 milligrams daily. And a remainder is provided by the average diet. Now remember, it's liver and intestine can produce this in large quantities. But as we said, nucleated tissues can produce cholesterol. And the amount of cholesterol they produce is only for its use as part of the cell membrane. So it says here, nucleated cells are capable of cholesterol synthesis in the endoplasmic reticulum and the cytosol. Okay. Acetyl-CoA is the source of all carbons in cholesterol. Cholesterol is a 27 carbon atom molecule. There are 5 steps in the formation of cholesterol. The synthesis of mevalonic acid, the formation of isoprenoid units, the condensation of 6 isoprenoid units to form squalene, the cyclation of squalene gives you lanosterol, formation of cholesterol from lanosterol. Right, so you have 5 steps. Step 1, acetyl-CoA. You have seen this. No? acetyl-CoA, 2-acetyl-CoA. So meaning to say these two molecules of acetyl-CoA are put together by your enzyme thiolase. So there are 2 acetyl-CoAs, 1 CoA is removed. So your product is acetoacetyl still CoA. No? Because if say there are 2 CoAs here, one is already thrown out. The other one now is acetoacetyl CoA. All right. Then another molecule of acetyl CoA, another molecule is added to acetoacetyl CoA through what we call HMG CoA synthase. And so here we are. This is 3-hydroxy 3-methyl glutaryl CoA. That is carbon 3. No? See carbon 1, 2, 3, 3-hydroxy. And then there is a methyl there. 3-hydroxy 3-methyl glutaryl CoA. Glutaryl from glutamic to glutamate has 5 carbons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Glutaryl CoA. Or in short, it is known as HMG CoA. Okay? Now, the next step is to convert this HMG CoA to mevalonic acid by an enzyme known as HMG CoA reductase. There you are. We have now mevalonic acid. This is the real rate limiting step. So this is the regulatory enzyme. Okay? If you look at this, bile acids and cholesterol has a negative effect on HMG-CoA reductase. Okay? And the product itself, mevalonic acid, has a negative effect on HMG-CoA reductase. So there you are. Now, this reaction, if you have a high cholesterol, the pharmaceuticals put out a drug known as statins in order to inhibit HMG-CoA reductase. And we call this statins. Example, simvastatin, lovastatin. No? So those are anti-cholesterolemic drugs. Each action is on inhibition of HMG-CoA reductase. Now in this reaction, it requires 2 molecules of NADPH. So this is, being a reductase, this is a reduction reaction. Okay? It's a reduction reaction. If you look at that, there's a double bond here, no? CO. And this is now becomes OH. The CoA is removed there, and the NADPH becomes oxidized NADP. Okay? So you have now mevalonic acid. Remember, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the glutaryl, and then you have 6 here. Carbon, no? 6 carbon. So there are 2 acetyl-CoA plus 1 acetyl-CoA, 3 acetyl-CoAs are being used to form mevalonic acid. I am emphasizing that because questions like how many acetyl-CoAs are used in the formation of mevalonic acid? So your answer is 3. How many NADPH are used in the formation of mevalonic acid. You say 2. No? Now, however, in the cholesterol formation, it requires also from mevalonic acid down to cholesterol, there's several of NADPH that is formed as quite similar also to the formation of fatty acids. From acetyl-CoA to your fatty acids, it requires a large amount of reductant, and the reductant is NADPH. Where did we get NADPH? Hala, natulog na sila.
Pentose phosphate pathway.
Very good. Hexose monophosphate shunt. What is the characteristic of this? What is the characteristic of this pathway? Will it be active during feed state or starvation state?
Active on fed state.
Fed state. So, the more you eat carbohydrate, the more you'll form NADPH. The more you have NADPH, the acetyl-CoAs that will be formed from pyruvate, from your glycolytic pathway, which goes into the mitochondrion to become acetyl-CoA, you will form, you still remember your synthesis of fatty acids? The acetyl-CoA there. How does acetyl-CoA get out of the mitochondrion? In what form? Because you know the fatty acid synthesis is occurring in the cytoplasm, but the formation of acetyl-CoA from pyruvate occurs in the mitochondrion. And you know that your uh, intermediates with a CoA or coenzyme A cannot pass through membranes. And yet you have acetyl-CoA that has to go out. Excuse me. Okay, sorry for the interruption. So, where were we? Oh, okay. So we have here, the first step is formation of mevalonic acid. So this is mevalonate. No? All right, the next step. Okay. All right, so we have now mevalonic acid here. Okay. This is acted upon by several kinases. One kinase here, another kinase, and another kinase. The idea is to put uh, a phosphate. So you have one phosphate here. We have now two phosphates here. We have now three phosphates here. One, two, three. Okay? So these are just the intermediates. Now what is important is that it is going to form mevalonic acid, no? So phosphorylated. Now you go into the formation of uh, isoprenoid units. So you have here isoprenoid units. Okay? Three of these, one plus this one, no, becomes this geranyl diphosphate. So one of that and one of these becomes geranyl. Now this one comes from here. So we have two already. This is five. This is five carbons, five carbons, five carbons. So you have now 10 carbons. Okay? Your geranyl has 10 carbons. Then another isoprenoid unit coming from here combines with geranyl, then you have farnesyl. Farnesyl. Now, two of these farnesyls join together to form your squalene. Okay, so let's count the number of carbons. All right, this one is 10 carbons. You add another isoprenoid units with 15 carbons. So that becomes 10 plus 5 equals 15. So if you want to count the carbons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 carbons. Okay? Now this 15 carbon farnesyl joins together, no, two of these molecules joins together. There you are. So this squalene is made up of 30 carbons. 30 carbons. Okay. In our formation of mevalonic acid, we already have spent 2 NADPH. Now here in this reaction, there is 1 NADPH added. So there is already 3 NADPH. Okay? Now from squalene, we go into formation of lanosterol. So here we are, again, as acetyl CoA, mevalonic acid, isoprenoid units, then you have squalene. Now look at this. These are not, this is still a, this is still what you call a straight chain formula. It is not closed. It is not cyclized. Look at that. It's open. No, there's an opening here. There's an opening here. It's, if you stretch this out, this is a straight chain. No, it is just put in this way so that you will know where the cyclation occur. So this will be closed. 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 So that the squalene now becomes an epoxide, squalene epoxide, by, again, an NADPH. No? All right. So you are going to reduce it some more. So it becomes squalene epoxide. And then cyclation occur. Cyclation occur means this becomes now closed. This is now closed. This is closed. So you have now your lanosterol, the first cyclic intermediate, no? Cyclic, because these are now closed. This one is still open. You look at that. No? All right. So this is cyclized now. Okay. So additional of one NADPH, additional of another NADPH. Okay. Another NADPH, and it becomes cymosterol, and then cholestanediol. Then you have NADPH again, tismosterol, and then another NADPH to have now cholesterol. So let's count the NADPH. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 2 for mevalonic acid. That makes it 7. So you need 7 NADPH. Now, I'm just counting that for you because this came out in the exam, the board exam. How many NADPH are being used? So as you can see here, cholesterol will be very hard to form when there is no carbohydrate, because NADPH comes from your pentose phosphate pathway, which requires that there's a large amount of glucose. Huh? Oh, that's the relationship between cholesterol and carbohydrate. Okay? Oh, so we have here, nawahin na. Step 1, biosynthesis of mevalonic acid. Step 2, formation of isoprenoid units. Step 3, 6 isoprenoid units form squalene. And then formation of lanosterol. And the enzyme that forms this cyclic intermediate is known as oxidosqualene lanosterol cyclase. Oxidosqualene lanosterol cyclase. Okay. And then the formation of cholesterol, you have lanosterol, then bismosterol, producing cholesterol. Okay. Farnesyl diphosphate gives rise to dolicol and ubiquinone. Dolicol and ubiquinone are formed from farnesyl diphosphate by addition of isopentyl diphosphate residues, some of the GTP binding proteins in the cell membrane are prenylated. Okay, so let's go back. There you are. So what do we have here? This is your isoprenoid units. So this is your farnesyl. This can go into the formation of dolicol. This can go into the formation of ubiquinone, no? And then prenylated proteins. So prenylated proteins from your prenyl, no? From your farnesyl diphosphate. Okay? There you are. Polyisoprenoid units, your dolicol and your ubiquinone. And then protein prenylation to facilitate anchoring of proteins into your lipoid membranes. You remember you have uh, integral proteins in the membrane and your peripheral proteins. So this is one way where your peripheral proteins can be anchored through your protein prenylation, anchoring of proteins into lipoid membranes. Okay? So cholesterol synthesis is controlled by regulation of HMG-CoA reductase. So I mentioned this earlier that this is the enzyme that is the rate regulating enzyme. As we can all know that this enzyme is inhibited by its own product mevalonic acid and also cholesterol itself. No? The final product, cholesterol, can inhibit that. And then we also know that this reductase, for clinical use, we use statins in order that this HMG-CoA reductase is being inhibited so that there will be less of cholesterol formation in the liver, okay? Because it's the liver that has the highest rate of formation. In total, because all cells, nucleated cells, can also produce cholesterol, but the amount of cholesterol there is what they need for their formation of membranes. Okay? Never mind that. Now, this is here. Look at this. Insulin or thyroid hormones increases activity of HMG-CoA reductase. So, insulin, there's plenty of glucose. So, there you are. Increases. However, glucagon, which is the opposite of insulin, decreases the activity of your HMG-CoA reductase. So this one is starvation state. This one is feed state. Okay. Dili ka mukaon, mag-starve ka, hinayrang imuhang kolesterol. Huh? Okay. This one is activation of your HMG-CoA reductase. Activation and inhibition. Oh. Okay. Many factors influence cholesterol balance in the tissues. It's good this way. Now here we are. We are back in the transport of your cholesterol by your LDL, your VLDL. No? See that? So these are your LDL receptors. This is coated clathrin. Oh, clathrin. This is clathrin proteins here or cholesterol esters, LDL. So that this whole cell will receive the cholesterol because this is the plasma here. Okay. So what is important is ApoB100 an E receptor in coated fats. There is also a scavenger receptor for the or LDL. There you are. So it is now destroyed by your lysosome or degraded. So here we are. We have the platrin. LDL ApoB100 receptors occur on the cell surface that are coated with cytosolic side of the cell membrane with a protein called clathrin. Once they bind there, they are taken in by endocytosis. And they are acted upon by the lysosomal enzymes. Okay. Cholesterol is transported in lipoproteins. You have seen that. You have your VLDL, your LDL, even your chylomicrons, which carries dietary cholesterol. Now, this one is important. Of the cholesterol absorbed, with 80 to 90% is esterified with long-chain fatty acids in the intestinal mucosa. Okay? 95% of the chylomicron cholesterol is delivered to the liver in chylomicron remnants, and most cholesterol secreted by the liver is VLDL. Okay. This is again similar to what we had the last time. No? That is between dietary, that's the intestine, as your liver, these are your extrahepatic tissues, and the interaction between your HDL and your LDL and LDL. Very, very important. So you have all of these receptors here, and also these receptors. Now, of course, especially in the extrahepatic tissue, now, when the receptors are not there, then you will have a problem with cholesterol, an increase of cholesterol in the plasma. So, quite important for these receptors here. Receptors for the ApoB. Receptors for ApoB and ApoE. So you see, ApoB100 and E. ApoB100 is VLDL, LDL. ApoB48 is chylomicron. Anong luksom ni iya, oy? Plasma LCAT. You know where this LCAT is? Lecithin cholesterol A cell transferase, which is associated only with HDL containing ApoA1. It esterifies your cholesterol. Where does it get its fatty acids to esterify the cholesterol?
Lecithin.
From lecithin at the number 2 carbon of the glycerol. That number 2 carbon, always remember, it is almost always occupied by unsaturated, no, unsaturated essential fatty acid. And of this essential fatty acid that is common is arachidonic acid, omega 6. Huh? Okay. The cholesterol esters formed by HDL is transferred to other lipoproteins. So it is even transferred to LDL when that LDL brings it out to other tissues for use by those tissues. So cholesterol is excreted from the body in the bile as cholesterol or as bile acids. When it is excreted as bile itself, especially in the intestine, it is converted to coprostanol by the bacteria present in your large intestine. Now, 95% of the bile acids that will be formed is reabsorbed. The bile acids formed in the liver is reabsorbed, 95%. Now let's talk about that. So the bile acids are formed from cholesterol. The primary bile acids are synthesized in the liver from cholesterol. These are cholic acid, found in the largest amount in most mammals, and quinodeoxycholic acid. Okay, let's look at that. All right, so here is our cholesterol. There. Then it is hydroxylated at carbon 7. Here is carbon 7 here. Hydroxylated. So that's why. So it becomes known as 7 hydroxycholesterol by a 7 alpha hydroxylase. Okay. And this is inhibited by bile acids. Look at that. Bile acids, vitamin C deficiency. So there you are. There's another function of the vitamin C. Huh? Okay. Now you have learned that this is, when it is deficient, this doesn't work well. Hydroxylation. So, in atherosclerosis or in high cholesterol, it is always wise to give your patient vitamin C so that the cholesterol can be hydroxylated through your enzyme 7 alpha hydroxylase. Now remember, this does not work when vitamin C deficient, you have vitamin C deficiency. Okay? So you have 7 dehydrocholesterol here, right? How? split two ways. One way going here, forming cholic acid, and the other one, chenodeoxycholic acid. Okay? So you have several steps here. Now look at this, here still in ADPH, even in the degradation of your cholesterol requires an ADPH. All right. When there is hydroxylation, now remember, there are already three hydroxylation here. At number 3 carbon, number 7 carbon by this one. Now in here, when it goes this way, there is hydroxylation at carbon 12. Carbon 12 is somewhere here. Here. Carbon 12. So there is hydroxylation. Oh, here we are. You have your carbon 12 there. So you have hydroxylation at carbon 3, carbon 7, carbon 12, and this will give rise to cholic acid. Now this cholic acid will now be combined because this is not soluble in water. So you add taurine. Now taurine is a product of cysteine, a byproduct of cysteine, taurine. And taurine is a conjugant for the bile acid. So you call it taurocholic acid. And we call this primary bile acid. Now, if it is not taurine that combines with your cholic acid, it is your glycine. And you call it glycocholic acid. So both of them are primary. No? Primary. Now, in the intestine, because not all of them are what you call, as we said, 95% of your bile acids are reabsorbed. But while they are in the intestine, there is deconjugation. Oh, this one is removed, deconjugated. Kuha ang glycine. And what do you call this? It's deoxycholic acid. It is known as secondary bile acid. Secondary bile acid. Now here, on this side, there is no hydroxylation at carbon 12. There's only 7 there. 3 and 7, original, like that one. So, you have chenodeoxycholic acid. The only difference here with this one is the presence of this OH at carbon 12. There. It does not have here. Oh, chenodeoxycholic. Still, chenodeoxycholic acid can react with taurine. It can react with glycine. So you have taurocholic, tauro, and glyco. Taurochenodioxycholic acid or glycochenodioxycholic acid. And when they are in the intestine, they can be deconjugated, meaning to say that the taurine and the glycine are removed and the hydroxyl at carbon 7 is removed. And you have what you call secondary bile acid known as lithocholic acid. So lithocholic acid comes from chenodeoxycholic acid. I've seen that. No? All right. Now, we mentioned already that cholesterol that is not formed into bile acids in the intestine is acted upon by bacteria and comes out as coprostanol in the feces. So the cholesterol in the feces is coprostanol. Okay. While this, they are discharged, no, into the urine. Okay, because they are now become soluble. Presence of taurine, presence of glycine, and the carboxyl group also present there. Okay. Most bile acids return to the liver in what you call enterohepatic. Well, it says here, now exclusively in entelio, this is absorbed in the ileum, and our book says 98 to 99% reabsorb. Okay? Now, some book says 95. Before, the older one, old, the old Harper, which we used, it's very old, it's 95. So it retains in see 95. Now the new Harper says 98 to 99. So, how are we going to remove most of the cholesterol since it is reabsorbed back into the liver? Because we know that cholesterol is degraded in the liver as bile acids. Diba? Now, if you form more bile acids, more cholesterol are removed. Correct? But if these bile acids return, most of them return back to the liver, then the liver will not form bile acids from cholesterol. So your cholesterol increases in amount, especially in patients with hypercholesterolemia. We have to eliminate that cholesterol. But since we have here 98 and 99% are returned back to the liver as bile acid, so the liver will not form bile acids anymore from cholesterol. Okay? Imagine this. Each day, the pool of bile acids, about 3 to 5 grams, is cycled through the intestine 6 to 10 times. And an amount of bile acid equivalent to that lost in the feces is synthesized from cholesterol, so that the pool of bile acids of constant size is maintained. This is accomplished by a system of feedback controls. You see? So in cases of people or patient with high cholesterol, no, because this is also genetic, where you'll have an increase of cholesterol formation. No, it's also genetic. Now, they have a way where your clinicians come in. They have a way of giving patient uh, medicines that will bind to the bile acids so that the bile acids cannot be reabsorbed or cannot go back to the liver, and it goes out of goes out through the intestine, because this happens in the intestine. Reabsorption in the ileum. So you give something that binds to these bile acids, no, so that it will not be reabsorbed by the ileum. So it goes out with the feces. So that is, there are medicines that are being used to bind to this 98 to 99% of bile acids back to the liver, so that the liver will continuously destroy or degrade the cholesterol into bile acids. This is only in patients with high cholesterol. Okay? Bile acid synthesis is regulated at the CYP7A1 step. The principal limiting step in the biosynthesis of bile acid is at CYP, cytochrome P7A1 reaction. The activity of the enzyme is a feedback regulated via nuclear bile acid binding receptor. And the binding receptor is the FXR receptor, or known as farnesoid X receptor. When the size of the bile acid pool in the enterohepatic circulation increases, FXR is activated and transcription of CYP7A1 gene is suppressed. Chenodeoxycholic acid is particularly important in activating FXR. Cytochrome 7A1 activity is also enhanced by cholesterol of endogenous. When we say endogenous, inside our body, no? And dietary origin and regulated by insulin, glucagon, glucocorticoids, and thyroid hormone. Okay? Medical aspects. Serum cholesterol is correlated with increase of atherosclerosis and coronary heart disease. Atherosclerosis is an inflammatory disease. Can you see this? So, how do we get inflammation in our blood vessel? The bacteria goes in there and forms inflammation. You'll have arthritis. No? We cannot afford to have that. We get sick, very, very sick. It is traumatic inflammation. Trauma. And where do we get the trauma? Where do we get the trauma? Where? How are we traumatized? Vehicular accident? You get traumatized if your collagen is very weak. The trauma there is produced by the heartbeat propelling that blood throughout the body. And if you have a weak collagen, the usual cause is vitamin C deficiency. So there you are again. Vitamin C na naman. Huh? So there is a scarring as a result of that. And then piling of mast cells with LDL, oxidized LDL, and then you have cholesterol smoothing out the inflamed process. And then, because cholesterol in your blood vessel that is used as a to pave material is sticky, form elements of the blood like RBC, WBC, no? Other plasma proteins will stick to the paving material, which is cholesterol. And so it becomes rough again, and then they will have to smooth it out so that that needles there, or that nest, no, increases in size. And the caliber of your blood vessel becomes smaller. And that's how you get your hypertension. Because now the caliber is small. Okay? Aside from that, there is elevated not only plasma cholesterol but also triacylglycerol. This is also another risk factor. Okay? Diseases where there is prolonged elevation of levels of VLDL, IDL, chylomicron, remnants, and LDL in the blood are the following. Diabetes mellitus, very common now. We have an epidemic of diabetes mellitus. And it's been there for a long time. And are accompanied by premature or severe atherosclerosis. Premature atherosclerosis occurs in the aged or the older population. So, young ones may have premature atherosclerosis. There is an inverse relationship of HDL and coronary heart disease. Meaning to say, if you have a high HDL, there's less likely that you will have a heart disease. But if you have a low HDL, you will have more risk of coronary heart disease. And so, the LDL-HDL cholesterol ratio is predictive. More of HDL, less of coronary heart disease. Okay, atherosclerosis varies widely among species, and humans are one of the few in which disease can be induced by diets high in cholesterol. Okay. Fatty, oily, greasy food. Diet can play an important role in reducing serum cholesterol. Okay. You must use polyunsaturated and monounsaturated fatty acid, especially the short chain fatty acids, short and medium chain. Short chain are below 8 carbons. Medium chain is 8 to 12 carbons fatty acid. Ideal, very ideal. Okay, omega-3 fatty acids. Very, very important. Omega-3. You must have more of omega-3 than omega-6. So your butter, fat, beef fat, palm oil contain high saturated fatty acids. Your coconut oil is only 16 carbon atoms oleic acid. And we have monounsaturated 16 carbon oleic acid. And mostly palmitic acid. No? Anong oleic acid is 18 eh? I'm sorry. 16 is palmitic. Palmito oleic. I should say palmito oleic. Another is upregulation of LDL receptors on the cell surface, causing an increased catabolic rate of LDL. So again, your receptors. So if you have plenty of receptors on LDL receptors on the surface of extrahepatic tissues, more LDL, more cholesterol are being used up. Additional factors play important coronary heart disease and high blood pressure, so atherosclerosis, smoking, male gender, obesity, abdominal obesity particularly, lack of exercise, drinking soft as opposed to hard water. Laka. So where do you get hard water? Spring water is hard water. River water is hard water. But you are not sure of its being free of bacteria. No? Other factors are stresses, emotional stress, coffee drinking because of caffeine. Yeah, caffeine. What if you take coffee? Just limit yourself to 2 to 3 cups. It's okay, but you should not go to 6 or 8 cups. There are people like that drinking 6 to 8. Premenopausal women are protected because of estrogen, beneficial effects of estrogen. But once we are now in the menopausal stage, no more estrogen, then they are just like the males as well. So that's why we are male gender. The females are protected by estrogen. But once you lose this, you're just like the male. And you'll be subjected also to all of these disorders. Coronary heart disease, atherosclerosis, moderate alcohol consumption, and a lower incidence of coronary heart disease. Moderate lang. That's the problem. Once you have taken alcohol, you'll say, one limit na ako, 1 bottle of beer lang. And then once you have your 1 bottle, the limit is removed. So wala na limit. No? So it says here, there is an association between moderate alcohol consumption and lower incidence of coronary heart disease due to elevation of HDL, resulting from increased synthesis of ApoA1, which is the apoprotein of your HDL, which changes in activity of cholesterol ester transfer protein. Red wine is beneficial, but still moderate. It is not just because it is red wine, you'll take one bottle. No. Regular exercise lowers your LDL but increase your HDL, as well as your triglycerol. Could be due to increased insulin sensitivity to glucose and enhances lipoprotein lipase. These are the lipases in the tissues that acts on the triacylglycerol that is carried by the chylomicrons, the VLDL. When diet changes fail, hypoepidemic drugs can reduce serum cholesterol. Is the one that I mentioned, clofibrate, gemfibrozil, which binds to your cholesterol, to your bile acids, so that they cannot be reabsorbed. So here are your statins: atorvastatin, simvastatin, fluvastatin, pravastatin. There you are. Now, here one. Is it timibib? Him. Primary disorders of the plasma lipoproteins. These lipoproteinemias are inherited. Uh, what we have here is not inherited disorders. Most of our atherosclerosis and coronary heart disease is due to lifestyle. We do not have so much of inherited diseases related to coronary heart disease and uh, atherosclerosis. Now here, the defect is the LDL receptor, the gene. So we have a defective LDL receptor. So that LDL is not cleared in the blood. So you have here diabetes mellitus, hypothyroidism, kidney disease, and atherosclerosis associated with secondary abnormal lipoprotein patterns are similar to one or another of the primary inherited condition. Now, some or most of us is just having what you call lifestyle disorders. So here are your defects. The hypolipoproteinemias, meaning uh, your so you have no chylomicrons, BLDL or LDL are formed because of defect of the APT. We have yet to see this in the Philippines. Familiar, there are a few familiar lipoprotein deficiency, low or near absence of HDL. Okay. These are not so, it's a rare disease in the Philippines. These are all defects, but as we said, we do not have so much of this. These are mostly found in the Caucasians or the white orangutans. Okay, so you'll just look at this, what they are. Okay. So here are our summary. Now, just read that summary. Okay. Okay. Do you have any questions? So you will have only topics that are lectured by Dr. Kahukom for your nutrition, then Dr. Alita for metabolism of proteins and amino acids, and then my lipid metabolism, including this cholesterol. Huh? All right. Do you have any questions? Hello?
Yan po, Doc.
Wala na? So those will be the topics for our third bi-monthly. Huh? Okay? Is there so much damage there in Tacloban due to bising?
Not much naman, Doc.
Not much. Makusog la. What about flooding? Wala rin.
Wala man,
Okay ra.
Doc.
Okay. So I was afraid that the electric post, just like what happened to previous typhoon that hit Tacloban, that the electric posts were destroyed, and so you do not have electricity. So it's a good thing that you have there. And I do not know if summer is badly hit. Okay na ba ang summer?
Okay raman ro, Dok. Okay ra, Dok.
Okay. Okay, so you can have your exam next week. Okay? I am assigning 35 questions. We apportionate 35 questions. Dr. Alita, Dr. Kahukum, 30 questions. And mine will also be 35. Now, if you have more than that, then my questions will be diminished. Let us say if Dr. Kauko has 40 questions and then Dr. Alita has 40 questions, then my questions will be reduced to 20. No? Okay. So just look at those,
Doc,
yes.
included pa ba yung topic ni Doc Kapungkol?
Was he able to give an exam? Mayroon ba siyang lipids, di ba? Lipids na
Yes, Doc.
structure and function.
Yes, Doc.
Wasn't he able to give you an exam on that? Was there?
Wala naman, Doc. Yung second bi-monthly? Wala.
Wala. Okay, I will give him sa questions ko na lang kasi also related, 'di ba? Akin metabolism sa kanya yung structure and function. So I will ask him, no? So anyway, that is just a structure and function. I may give maybe 10 or 20 questions. No problem.
Okay, Doc. Thank you.
Okay. Okay na?
Thank you, Doc.
All right.
Ito daw.
Ulitin eh.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, Doc.
Welcome.
Thank you,
Thank you, Doc.
Welcome.
Thank you po, Doc.
Welcome.